To give us more insight on President Xi's visit to India and the relationship between these two countries, I'm now joined by Haiyan Wang. She's the managing partner of the China-India Institute. That's a research consultancy focused on the transformational rise of China and India. Also worth noting, she's the author of The Silk Road Rediscovered. Of course, this relationship's been described as almost equal parts competition, cooperation, concern. Any of that change after this meeting?
I think that the relationship remains to be a complex relationship. Economically, given that China is likely to become the largest economy by 2025, and India could be the third largest economy. So economically, there will be some competitions for natural resources, for acquisition targets, for the share of global markets. Geopolitically, there will be some tensions lingering. One is the border disputes, another is the ties, military ties, economic ties that India builds with Japan, with the United States. However, notwithstanding all of these tensions, China and India's economic cooperation is a much bigger story. It was a very big story, growing the trade the fastest than amongst all of the major economic powers. And I see the future as full of big opportunities for not only trade, but investment as well.
Let's talk about the border issue, because that's still kind of a thorn on both sides.
Yes.
Any progress made there? I know they did talk about it, which some people were kind of wondering if it would even come up.
I think that what is achieved is this reiteration that both leaders are committed to resolving the border disputes sooner rather than later. That the starting point could be a clarification of the line of the border control. I think that if you listen carefully, the leaders said that both countries have the capabilities, have the desires to manage the border disputes, to maintain peace and tranquility, and that peaceful development is good for China, good for India, good for regional peace, good for the global prosperity. I think that that sets up a very positive tone for resolving the border disputes down the road.
You're looking at two huge powers with this handshake. That's what that's basically is emblematic of. Yeah. Obviously, other world powers have their eye on this this session. The United States and Japan, notably. How are they viewing it?
I think that right now everybody's casting their eyes on India. India is kind of in a sweet spot, and India has many suitors. Modi just wrapped up the visit to Japan. He's going to visit the U.S. Later this year. Amongst all of these powers, of course, each would hope that India will be in their own camp. But I think that India will be independent, will remain in a non-alignment stance, which to that extent is a good thing, that India is neutral, that India is pragmatic, seeking economic cooperation. Geopolitically, I think that on global stages, there are a lot of opportunities for India and China to be both emerging markets to cooperate on climate issues, on security, food security, energy security, on global governance. And also China and India have been cooperating very actively in regional frameworks, such as the BRICS banks, the infrastructure investment bank.
What about India's stance on these territorial disputes involving China and some of these other nations in both the South and East China Seas? That's kind of a sticking point too, isn't it?
It kind of, because India has done some exercises with Vietnam, has attempted to jointly explore the oils in the South China Sea. However, none of these have flared up to the extent that is going to be a major block to the India-China relationship. But I think that, on that front, both sides take a cautious approach, try not to step on the other's feet too heavily.
All right. Haiyan Wang, always a delight having you in. Thanks so much.